will be imposed at some point upon the earth. And anybody that resists it will not be there. So you got to say, what exactly is God's will? And that's clearly at the top of the list of things that must be established. No form of money at all. And nobody there that wants any form of money. Because all that means is advantage, disadvantage paradigm all over again. It's got to go in all its sundry manifestations, incarnations, forms. Every bit of it. You understand? No, we're not playing that game. We're at a level playing field from birth. Very simply and logically, childlike understanding and logic. The earth belongs to God. God's the creator of every living thing, flora and fauna alike. He gave us our ability to understand beauty and cuteness and love. He gave us our five senses and everything good we've ever enjoyed or ever will enjoy. He owns the earth. He owns us and loves us all equally. What will any parent say to their children about the resources of the earth and the need for money? Share. So it's obvious we're born unfathomably wealthy at birth. We have a level playing field. We have an innate, God-given desire, need to give of ourselves, to utilize our God-given talents in service to our fellow men. Otherwise, we don't feel useful. If we don't feel useful, how do we feel appreciated? If we don't feel appreciated, we don't feel loved. So we all have this drive, this absolute irresistible need to be loved and to find a way to be loved, and that we realize that's in service, in giving of ourselves in a very hands-on, tangible fashion. So the system cannot break down. It will work. Okay, when it's established, we're all rich from birth. God's will established. So it shouldn't be that hard to imagine and figure it out beyond that. You know how it could work. We'll work it. We'll get along together. We could draw straws sort of thing, right? You know, who gets to live in that coveted house by the sea? Or we just have so many extra places all over the freaking planet that we don't trip on that stuff, you know. We go wherever we want, live as long as we want, a really nice pad. We're at any time. That's the reality we could have in short order. Very short order, practically overnight. Because there's a huge glut and excess of vacant housing out there. Yeah, contrary to what you're told, it's sort of like diamonds. They got warehouses full of diamonds. We could all be walking around with our pockets bulging with diamonds. Everybody on earth could. But, you know, they get these high prices, the blood diamonds and all this. You see, the root of all evil, not some of the evil, all of it. They can't coexist. We can't serve two masters. So yes, while God understands we all love money for practical reasons right now, because we all, I mean, I don't get stuff free just because I detest money. So I've got to find a way to reconcile these things in my life and in my heart and mind and spirit. I got to turn to God. Say, God, you see the conflict, the schism within my very soul over this thing we call money. I see what you see. I see how it far too easily corrupts the hearts and minds of evil men. Weak links, they think they're tough and strong because they run the show. They're not. They're not. There's a multitude of minions that are unwitting, that are going the wrong direction. They don't know. They don't know they're on the highway to hell. And I'm here to help them see. Your heart has to be pure. And if you've been influenced by these money masters of misery, remember, they're not nice people. They're the type that sell their conscience. They're the type will murder. They will do anything. They would commit genocide. They would start wars for profit. Do you understand what they're willing to do? Things that the vast majority of people with an ounce of conscience would never do for any amount of money. If you value conscience, but these are the ones that rule over us. The mean ones, the meanest ones. And those are the ones, I mean, calling the shots, friends. They can make all the laws they want from their pulpits, but it's up to your local law enforcement what laws they decide to enforce or not. right? It's the same with the military. What if they had a war and nobody came? If they said, no, I disagree with the politicians on this one, I'm not doing it. So the politicians never put out there publicly. They just do a little private consensus of the military. What are they willing to do in this circumstance or that, so that they never have to have egg on their face, right? And eat humble pie, because politicians, we all know, hate that. They hate being wrong. And they know a war can either make them popular or they got to watch their steps. Because if the hearts and minds of the military isn't in it, and you got bupkis, you're going to lose, like we did in Vietnam, because we didn't have the hearts and minds of the people. We didn't have the hearts and minds of the troops. And they know they got to watch their step, or they'll end up with egg on their face and eating humble pie. And they hate that. But friends, think long and hard about a world without any form of money, because you have the same capacity as I do to imagine it, if you're simply being honest. That's all it takes. It doesn't take a lot of intellectual prowess. It just takes honesty. You can do it. Unless you want to be on the side of the evil geniuses, the slaver class. All through history, the same mentality of people. They've been running the show. They can't resist it. They love it. Remember the prostitute and John thing, my friends. This idea of doing a rent strike, why not be too bad? Say, I'm done being a John. Stop sucking me in here. I can't buy it anymore. I can't afford you anymore. Tell that to the prostitute. You're on your own, though. Because, we know that prostitution is legal in some parts of America. So you understand the metaphor here? By supporting this, we become more and more culpable. The more we support it and go along with it and just say, somehow I'll keep cracking this nut because I have to. I can't be homeless, or, oh my God, oh my God, I got it. God gets it. It's traumatic. That's the point we're at in history, where people can't take it no more. The price of gas jumping up over $1 a gallon here overnight. With no warning, all the stations do it at the same time, and they're selling the fuel from the last inventory. So they bought that fuel at one price, and then they're selling it to the public at a vastly new. The profits are enormous. This is why our governor's talking about rebates. Save your gas receipts, Californians. Save it. And say, yeah, we were gouged at this point. They did price rigging, price fixing overnight. They all colluded. All these gas companies, every one of them. Save your receipts. Maybe you'll get a rebate. We have that hyperinflation now, finally. This is the good news, is that we're nearing the end. It can't go on like this. But the Federal Labor Department could have prevented this just by looking after the interests of federal minimum wage workers. We would have kept the soundness of the dollar. We could have kept the same standard of living for every federal minimum wage worker across America. Home ownership, middle class life, one person working. That's what we could have had. All right, friends, I got a couple of minutes left, and I want to get on to some talking points. And I guess the recent current events I've kind of exhausted. I'm sick to my stomach about this thing over there in Ukraine. I want to mention this believing in something versus believing such and such. It's kind of like death. If somebody says, hey, you know what, we all got to die, and I say, well, I don't believe in death. You understand? I believe it exists in some form, but that's subject to interpretation. Like Christ said, we're to think the way God thinks, that there is no death. To God, all are alive, so we can't really die, because we are not bodies. We are essence. We are a lot more than just a body. Heart, mind, spirit, soul. You understand? Your essence, it's eternal. And God can as easily give you a new body as he gave you the one you have. You got to believe that way, because it's good to have a body. You got your senses. We're incorporated. We're integrated very well into our body, our essences. I get that. But nevertheless, you got to separate, understand that it is just the body at the end of the day. So believing in something and believing it exists, like death, okay, are two entirely different things. And you got to remember that for so many things, because when you believe in something, it's like trusting in something, having faith in something, right? Believing in something versus believing. So we got to just disseminate that, distinguish that. It's very critical to your understanding and your thinking about this thing we call death. Listen, friends, I got to leave it there. Very best to everybody for today and for all eternity. And just, try to be nice. Christ talked about the love of many people, or most people, waxing cold at this period in history. And we got to watch our own hearts, guard your own heart, and just pray. When you feel that dark cloud overcoming you, say, God, please let me just be a nice